This is Kettering University.
Thank you very much. So it's truly an honor to be here at the Kettering University, and I want to thank you all for taking your time to come and meet me. And I want to thank Markku Jaakkola for making this happen. He's my compatriot Finn, and we met several years ago when this studying in the US in the auto capital of the world was his dream, and he's making it all true. So I love seeing that. So my interest in leadership began very early, and I have a picture to show you how. So how many of you have heard about Sheryl Sandberg, COO of Facebook? She recently wrote a book, Lean In, and she's spoken about the fact that many young women, many young girls actually are called bossy when they boss people around. I was certainly one of those. But what she says that bossiness should be translated into is executive capabilities. So my executive capabilities, I'm the one with the red dot there. I was the editor-in-chief, cartoonist, and publisher of the Neighborhood magazine. I was bossing the kids in the neighborhood, come to my meetings every week religiously and learn new things and go on ski trips with me. So not just bossing people around, but why we boss people around is part of leadership, is to put those creative juices together and innovate. So innovation has become one of my key interest areas, as have gender intelligence. How do we create innovation that produces sustainably worthwhile results? And this is what Kettering is all about, isn't it? So I myself have never really pursued entrepreneurship as a way to create my retirement, as to be acquired by some big entity. It's been my job business. It's been for me to express who I am and help people with my knowledge and expertise. And that's what I have been doing over the last quite a few years as a coach. So since my time as a student, like many of you here now, I've been going through a series of follow my heart incidents as I talk about. It's not been really a career plan. So I've been just moving from one thing to another, and I take you on that trip with me today a little bit. So I have a sort of a mentor in my mind, somebody who has words of wisdom, esteemed wisdom as I call him, who I follow dearly and whose books I have next to me wherever I go, whatever I do. And you might know him because this is what he said, and I took this to heart. You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes, you can steer yourself any direction you choose. That's Dr. Seuss, right? So I got married while I was still in college, and I founded a business with my then husband while we were students. We taught English and did some translation work, and we also had jobs. So my now ex-husband got a job, a localizing job with a little-known software company that was just emerging in Dublin, Ireland, in their offices there. And now we know the company as Microsoft. And that company then brought us over to the US, and I'm forever grateful to Mr. Gates to create that company that has provided me this fabulous life experience here in the United States. So, as Dr. Seuss would say, with brains in your head and feet in your shoes, we were ready to go on our adventure, and here we are. So my choice has been mostly solopreneurship, and we'll talk about how that has affected me. In college, a fellow student of mine said to me that, because I loved staying a student, she said, Kristiina, we really need to take what we've learned. It's our responsibility to take what we've learned and share it with the world. So that's what I've been trying to do ever since. So just a couple of years ago, I founded Women in Innovation Summit, and I've come across all kinds of leaders of innovation and innovators through that work. And you'd think that there is a way to move from an innovator to entrepreneur to a leader. And this is usually how people see the path. So first you come with an invention and you become an innovator, right? And then you make it into a business, you become an entrepreneur, and then eventually you become a leader in your business, in your industry, in the society, and so forth. And here's what I would like to suggest, though, that you begin with being a leader. And that's the one thing out of all of these that you can do right now. You can start assuming a position and a mindset of a leader and practice the skills that make you truly a leader. Because not everybody here will be an innovator. Not everybody here will be an entrepreneur. You all have the capacity to be creative and create something and be an innovator, potentially. You all have the option to be an entrepreneur at some point of your lives. But even if you can, it doesn't mean that you should. Because you know that there's studies that say that there's more people starting their own businesses than people are getting married and having children. Most companies are not innovative, and they usually just employ one person. They don't have plans to grow, and they usually make less than $100,000 a year. So building a business is hard work, but being a leader, that's something you can start right now as you are. There's two researchers, James Kuzner and Barry Bosner, who've studied the characteristics of the most admired leaders. And they have identified over 30 years those characteristics on the top to be the same, constant, for over 30 years. And they've studied this with over 100,000 people. And the four most important characteristics of leaders that people are willing to follow are these: honesty, forward-lookingness, being competent, and being inspiring. And I assert that each one of you here can do and be this right now, because you can choose to be genuine, transparent, honest in whatever you do right now. And you can shift your thinking to the future. You can be forward-looking. It doesn't matter if you're good-looking, but if you're forward-looking, that helps. And you're here now. You're studying for your competency. And you know what competency is? It's actually your ability to put what you know into practice. That's what competency is. So now you are learning the ways you can then put into work. And unless you decide to be a hermit for the rest of your life, you will be inspiring somebody by mentoring somebody, by sharing your story with someone. Everybody's got a story. So let's start with the very basics. So keep these in mind, that whoever you are, those are the 4 things you can take away from this session with me and own as yours from today. But the most basic premise of leadership, whether you are as an entrepreneur or innovator or leader in a company, is to know yourself. That's the number 1 work you have in this school. And already, it's an ancient wisdom, even before Dr. Seuss's time. And as a coach, as an executive coach, as I've had a privilege to work with many leaders and executives, I've learned to combine the wisdom of those who are the best in their leadership and those that are the best practices of a coach. And I'm going to share those because they are the secret sauce of a coach with you here. So, the best of leaders, they assume that the people they work with are creative, that they are resourceful, and they are whole. They are not there to mother them or father them or somehow take care of them. They are there to help them to be the best they can when they are working with you. They are curious of their potential. They approach them with, they don't need to be fixed. They are helping with their questions to bring the best out of them. They're like Curious George. He's always resourceful, isn't he? Or just like with Einstein, who said, I have no special talent. I'm just passionately curious. So those are the 2 things. You assume that the people here, who are here your peers, who are here your students, your teachers, if you assume that everybody has the resources to be whatever they need to be, and your job is to be curious about them, you are way ahead of the game as a leader. So, when you are, as a leader, meeting with people right now, where you are, whoever you are, you assume creativity in other people. You are curious and you ask powerful questions. You also, if you ask a question, you need to stop and listen. And the best leaders that I worked with, they are good in listening skills. They talk less, listen more. And they acknowledge the people around them. It's not just a thank you, but who you are being when you're doing something. I really noticed how much effort you put into getting this done. I appreciate your effort because you had to give up something for the sake of doing this work for me. When people ascend in the leadership ladder, they usually get less and less honest feedback. And some of the companies I've worked with, they actually don't get feedback at all anymore. The 360s and the feedback review systems are created for the minions down below. So if you, as a student now, start from the place of soliciting feedback and asking people for feedback and review who you are and how you're doing, you are way ahead of the game again. Because then you are used to finding the edge of growth for yourself over and over again. So learn to solicit feedback. Holding accountable is one of the key functions of an executive coach. You have to do what you say you will do and keep your promise, and that's what good leaders do. it's not a license to judge other people. It is really, truly to see their potential. So are you an innovator? If you are, like me, your mind never ever stops to think about different new ways of doing things or better ways of doing something. So yes, so you and I, we are creative, but we are not innovative, unfortunately. That barrage of new ideas in your head, that's not yet innovation. You are an ideator like me, coming up with great ideas. And some call us daydreamers too, so, choose whichever. And if you're like me, you might be the one who combines all kinds of different ways of looking at things and reorganize kind of conventional, traditional thinking. But you are not yet an innovator, unfortunately. You might be like Alice in Wonderland, and you are seeing things in new ways. So you might be an insider. You might come up with new research questions, and you have insights when you do your research, but you're not yet an innovator. Everything around us was once a thought. Even you. That curiosity, and when people asked what if or why not, sparked them to create and even procreate. So none of this would exist without having people who innovate amongst us and having our creativity work for us. So some of us come up with inventions, things, gadgets, widgets. You do these kinds of things here at Kettering, right? And you might be an inventor, but that's not yet an innovator. There are people who, unlike me, answer yes to all of these questions. Do you come up with practical new ideas? Yes. Have you put them into use? Yes. Have you shared them? Yes. Have you scaled them? Yes. Are they sustained? Yes. If you have said yes to all of those questions, you are an innovator. Because an innovation is a practical new idea put into practice, put into use. Then it's shared, scaled, and sustained. That is what changes our lives. That's transforming the way we think or do things. That's innovation. So I have a friend, she's a banker, and she told me that, I almost became an innovator. I had my pantyhose, I've been cutting it for the longest time to sort of squeeze my stuff sort of neatly inside. I didn't tell about it to anyone, but there was a person who did have the same idea, and she did become the world's youngest self-made female billionaire, Sarah Blakely, who founded Spanx. See, there's a difference between an idea and one who truly innovates. So the lesson in innovation is that it's not just the idea, it's the scaling and sustaining it. And that's where it gets to be hard. That's why it's so hard to be an entrepreneur. Because in order for your idea to become truly sustainable and scaled way of being or thing, you need access to money. And that's where most of us stop. Because it's really hard to find that funding. And this seems to be extraordinarily hard. for everyone, but extraordinarily hard for women in particular. Finns are kind of practical-minded people. I'm sure that here in Michigan you've come across some hard-working, hard-drinking, reticent kind of Finns. No? Yes? Mm-hmm.
Just the fact.
Okay. Well, in Finnish, this is your Finnish lesson now. In Finnish, we have a word for an entrepreneur. And maybe Markku have taught you this already, but let me show it to you. It's the word YRITTÄJÄ. That's the name of the day today. It basically translates as someone who tries a lot. So I called us entrepreneurs the triers. And I think it really describes more specifically and precisely of what entrepreneurs do. They try out stuff a lot and they fail a lot. So YRITTÄJÄ describes this sphere of entrepreneurship really well, because 90% of all businesses fail in a few years of inception, unfortunately. So if you think about doctors, if doctors would fail 90% of them after going to school, that would hurt. I don't know if we would accept that kind of rate with doctors. And so we do hit this wall of no more resources pretty fast. Because even if you go through a startup weekend or something like that and you get started with your business, you can't really live on passion for too long. Even if you do all your marketing on social media, you need to get funded at some point. So I'm sure that this society will talk about those issues that are there. So there are especially this is especially tough for women, because of all the venture capital funding that goes to businesses, only 5 to 7% goes to women's businesses. And and there are many reasons for it, but one reason is that only 3% of women's businesses are tech businesses, and most VC money goes to tech businesses. And out of 89 top venture capital firms, only one is by a woman. I found 28 women-owned angel fund, women-run angel funds, and it doesn't mean they only fund women-owned businesses, but they do business. So out of all the new businesses, though, women are now starting 70% of all these 6 million businesses that are started every year. So that's quite a lot, and so the change is coming. And women-owned businesses are now about 30% of all businesses in the U.S. And 16% of the employment happens through women. 16% have paid employees in female-owned businesses. And only 4% of the total revenue comes from women's businesses at this moment. So everybody is kind of small businesses still. But the reason is that they are mostly stuck in that funding position. And so we need another Finnish word here. Sisu. It's the guts. You really have to stick with it. You have to have the guts and courage to stick with it. And how you create that courage and guts and sisu is through collaboration. And I say that collaboration is the name of the game. And if we only knew how to collaborate, the world would be so much a better place. And I assert that we don't. And that's why we are in such dire straits in many ways. So there are many myths about collaboration, and one of them is that women in particular are great at collaboration. And I say no, women are extremely good in sharing and making connections through sharing, which is the basis of trust, and we all should practice that. But collaboration is a totally different animal. It is actually an audacious act. It takes so much more work to actually work together. And there are many reasons why it doesn't work. So let me just briefly give you 3 most important functions that you need to take into account when you think about collaboration. So it's both giving help and receiving help. And especially women have really hard time asking for help. And there are many reasons why. But when you get into a collaborative situation, it's both give and learn to receive when people do want to help you. And secondly, it's about commitment. There is the word labor in collaboration. Those of you who have given birth know what I'm talking about. The rewards are worth it, but you do have to stick through the sweat and pain and the scream. And then thirdly, the boundaries are important. It's important that you work through that know yourself piece in order to have your solid self-confidence and self-esteem so that you're not threatened by being in a partnership with another person. And the same stands for joint ventures. If your company's brand is really clear, it's not threatened by a joint venture. So that's my quick tip on collaboration there. And if you take everything into account, what I've just said, I'll go back to Dr. Seuss and say that you will succeed. 98.75% guaranteed. And you will move mountains. So I will encourage you all to find your own mountains, go move them, and get on your way. And in the process, remember to be brave, because this is a very courageous path you've taken. And I want to invite you all to join, to continue the conversation, because I know that we're running short of time, at the Women in Innovation LinkedIn group. It's open to men as well, so don't be scared. And we talk about topics like leadership, innovation, entrepreneurship, and so forth. So join in on that. I have my contact information. I have my card here, so if you want to talk to me afterwards, you're welcome to. If you have any more questions, let's take a couple of minutes if we can. And I thank you very much for being good students with me today. Thank you.
One question, because I really butchered Markku's name. Could you pronounce that? How do you pronounce it? You said it so much more eloquently.
Markku Jaakkola.
Jaakkola. I apologize. That was really bad how I introduced you. But thank you very much on behalf of Kettering University. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're truly a difference maker.
Great.
And a little gift from
Oh,
Kettering.
wow. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. We have time for 1 or 2 questions?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if your advice was to becoming a leader or innovation, but you said that you recommend first becoming a leader, and perhaps implying that later on you may think about doing innovation or entrepreneurship. But it seems to me that if you get to be a good leader, I've done some research in this area, and I found that they get so wrapped up in being leaders, they cannot innovate. They cannot do the entrepreneurship. They're very good leaders. Perhaps it works very well in a company or an enterprise, because then the leader will be nurturing innovation from other people. But in terms of one individual, and this heard your talk saying that you're a soloist or solo, whatever, as one person, it seems to me that it will not work. It's contradictory.
To me, the answer to that is collaboration. Because you can't innovate by yourself anymore. We cannot be entrepreneurs by ourselves. even as a solopreneur, you need an ability to collaborate. And leadership to me is not leadership or power over people. It is an ability to influence, and it's an ability to be with, from that collaborative servant perspective. And from what and I'm not talking from an academic perspective, I'm talking about anecdotal of my own observations in this area, is that once you work well together with other people, you are more prone to have insights, ideas, and you actually can act on them better because you have now access to more resources than yourself. And that accelerates the process of innovation because you work well together as leaders. And I think leadership starts with leading yourself first, working on your own strengths, knowing yourself and knowing your strengths, and then building from that. And once you know where you are weak, you need to collaborate with someone who's got that as a strength. Anything else? Yes.
Okay, so you mentioned bravery, right? So I guess bravery is not something that I guess you can teach, right? So how do you overcome that sort of
If you're not scared every day a little bit about the things that you're going to do and stretch yourself, you're not doing enough. It's the thing you can teach yourself. And that's where coaches come into picture, because sometimes I know myself. If I don't have somebody who trains me, I don't do exercising by myself as hard as I would when I have a personal trainer who kicks my ass. Or I go to a class where I have to get on with the class. I stretch myself more. The same mentally. If I really want to be bold, audacious, brave, and courageous, I also need to be prepared to fail, because you don't get there without that. And it's that knot in your stomach, like, should I want to, but can I? But if I fail, yeah, okay, it's fine, let's find out. But that's when you need somebody, a buddy, to help you get over that edge. I think we can learn bravery. Anybody else? Yes.
The university is often compared to a gym, where we have all the resources and students have to come in and use the equipment to really get anything out of it. And the faculty is the analogy of the trainer and the coach. Where do you start when you're coaching somebody? What's the first thing that you do, or that a faculty should do with their students?
Know their strengths. Focus on their strengths and really help them see that in themselves, so that you build great self-esteem. People who are happy that their contribution is appreciated. So every single person on the planet wants to be seen, wants to be heard, and wants to be appreciated for their contribution. We all want to contribute in some way. And if our contribution is not valued or seen, then we kind of fade away, or we start acting out, or there's resentment or pushback or what have you. So if people are recognized with the potential they have, and they are asked, like, we see your potential, do you want to take it to excellence? And I love the values of Kettering University. It's like my peeps because of that. And it all starts with respect. But how do you put that into practice? How does it, I think if the faculty would create everything that they do for the students with the mindset of how do these values actually show in every way we interact with the students, or how the curriculum is designed, that the value of respect, value of collaboration, how do these different things are infused with the values. And then the students, you've chosen this university for a reason. And maybe the reason is because of what the school stands for. And so that you can start seeing those values in all the ways you are being, as well as how you do things here. Is that kind of, yeah. Anybody else? Yes.
Throw ethics, the concept of ethics, into your discussion. Every day we hear of a situation in the world, locally, about ethics going bad.
Yes.
So how does ethics fit into your subject?
I think it's absolutely in the center, in the core of it. And I believe that if we only, all of us, worked consciously and intentionally with that primary core instruction from the Oracle of Delphi, know thyself, ethics would take care of itself. But that core, because I do believe that at the core of every human being, we good. We want to be good. We want to achieve. We want to do good things. But things go awry when we start letting the greed or whatever fog our thinking. And so I hear that the ethics course or talk is coming up, so I think that's brilliant. I think it needs to be part of all the conversations we have, especially about technology, in conjunction with technology or business.
I worked for General Motors for 43 years, and in my later years, I was representing my division on a project to create a master's program in engineering. It was going to be a online course, and I was one representative. We interviewed many colleges, Rensselaer, Polytech, University of Michigan, all of the technical, high, well-known technical schools. And I guess where I'm going with this is I've experienced a lot of situations where we could say there's an ethics value or there's an ethics issue. So I wanted, in this program, I wanted a class or somehow ethics woven into this master's in engineering.
Brilliant.
And what do you think the response was of my collaborators from General Motors, as well as the response from those colleges or those universities that were vying, for this program? What do you think it was?
Not necessary.
Not necessary, no. And I was insistent. I mean, I was senior and soon to retire, so I was forcibly pushing this point to the point of embarrassment of all, I might add. But the schools didn't want to do it, nor did my associates from General Motors want to do it. So I'm addressing the students here, because you're going to be, walking that path in your lifetime, and ethics is going to help you make a decision one way or the other. You may stand alone.
And ethics in practice to me is to get really clear on your values, your principles that you live by, and how do they actually show up in practice, in the way you speak to other people, approach people, and do things. And so it's a very practical set of framework ethics to me. It is that values put into work process. And I'm working right now with a company where we very intentionally built their culture. And we've done a lot of value mining, and so that everybody in the company is on board at all the levels, and everybody they hire against those values. So the ethics comes through that when you know what the values are, what you stand for.
Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate your time, Kristiina. And I know people are going to class.
Yes, time to do your work. That's what you're here for. Thank you.